right?
I love this.
I don't know how close you and Joe are. To me, it seems like Joe and Mal have been knowing each other for a long time. I feel like Joe is loyal to his friends.
Okay, so
The guys he meets through the industry, y'all kind of disposable.
Joe, are we industry friends?
Yeah, what year was this?
I'm just, that's how I see
I'm
it.
just in awe of this guy's good.
Am I wrong?
He is.
Nigga, yeah.
Oh, okay. So Rory's your man? Rory's like your friend?
Yeah, where's my friend?
Okay.
A lot of this stemmed from business mishaps, misunderstandings, I should say. Not mishaps, just misunderstanding amongst the business side of the podcast, right? So you would think that an additional week, because we've been dealing with this for what, about 6, 7, maybe 8 weeks. It's been a while since, we've seen the guys together up until last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever, right? So you would think that 6, 7, 8 weeks, whatever amount of time is enough for everybody to get on the same page. How do y'all feel? Yes, no, any objections to that?
I mean, you would think.
You would think. That's all I have.
Yeah, you would definitely think. It's just sometimes it's not even a time period that needs to go by, but real communication. So I can't necessarily agree to that because, like I said, even though I know time had went by when they came back for that episode, being in that room, sensing what I felt.
What'd you feel? As Scream Man on the Joe Budden podcast.
Yeah, Scream Man pulling up topics. It felt like Rory was trying to get that flow of show back, doing his little jokes here and there. It felt like Maul was a little detached, more than a little detached, honestly. And it felt like Joe was just really trying to carry the show and finish it. And honestly, that's not how shit really go over there. They vibe, they flow. Certain topics put them in certain moods, which creates great conversation. Yeah, it was none of that.
You didn't think it was like truly solved like people thought it was just because that episode happened.
If you listen to that podcast and you thought that it was truly solved, seek help. Yeah. You don't know what life is. You don't know what personal people interactions are. You're not familiar with tension. So put yourself in a more uncomfortable situations if you're not familiar with tension, because you could listen and hear the tension in there. 6 weeks go by and issues aren't resolved, right? They say it's business stuff. They say it's friend stuff. Actually, they said it wasn't business or money related.
Said it was respect, right?
It was more so just respect and, hey, I want to know, transparency and respect. Those were the two words that were thrown around very loosely. And the word friend. All of these words and shit was thrown around very loosely, and I'm just sitting back doing my goddamn job. 6 weeks go by.
Hey, do your little timestamps.
If Alex, question, brother. We do this podcast weekly.
Yeah.
If I didn't show up for 6 weeks, what does that say to you as my friend, as my business partner, as somebody we rely on each other? What does that say to you?
It tells me that we're not on the same page, first and foremost. Because if we're on the same page, we understand that this has to continue. And we're not in the line of work as to where we could kind of just chill for a few weeks and kind of handle things. It also would kind of make me judge how much you cared about it, which is fine. But I would at least have to know how much you cared. Because now I'm kind of learning in the moment, like, okay, if you could just dip for about 6, I don't know if my care is as the same as your care, which is fine. We're all different human beings.
Yeah.
But on this platform, it is something we have to do together.
Let me say this. Anybody who thinks that Parks, myself, Ian, Alex, Erickson, we're ass kissers, we're dick suckers, dick riders, all of these things that you have said in my mentions.
On my body.
I would like to tell you to compare your bank account to ours.
It's an interesting comparison.
Honestly, like, you don't even know my body. Like, you don't know my body.
And let me not even be on that space, because what it really is to me, you just don't understand what it's like to bet on yourself. Because this is not a traditional job. I didn't go on Indeed. I didn't go on LinkedIn and apply for this position and got it. Like, I need people to understand that the position that we're in is like lightning striking.
And yes men, let me tell you something about yes men, bro. People are always going to take their own decision about what they want to do. All right? You can give advice. You can maybe tell people, hey, I think this, I think that. Let me tell y'all something if you don't know by now. People are always going to lead with what they want to do. So if you want, like, come on.
Lightning does not strike twice. And what I mean by that is opportunities like this does not come often. I remember applying for 50 jobs in a day and
MTV,
hearing no.
Viacom, you name it, right? All in our space is what we're saying.
All of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be a part of something that essentially became the biggest podcast in music. I don't take it for granted.
At all.
I don't. There's people that just don't take it for granted. Parks does not take it for granted. Parks is from upstate New York, Buffalo. Now, he's not from Buffalo. Forgive me.
I think Elmira.
Yes, there we go.
It's me.
Which
Scream
you've
Man.
never heard
Look at
of.
Scream Man. Look at
Who but him?
Look at Alex Googling shit in his mind.
In his mind.
This
This
nigga's
nigga.
amazing, my
It's
nigga.
me,
This
it's me.
nigga's amazing.
He's like the walking Shazam. I'm telling you, he's walking Google. Anything you need, you can ask him. Like,
I get it.
He's good.
I get it.
There's people that don't take this shit for granted, though. There's people that didn't see this. You can't even plan it. You don't foresee it. I don't wake up. I don't get on my fucking forklift at the time and say, hey, I'm going to tweet Joe Budden for a fucking opportunity. He'll give me an opportunity, and I'll flip this into something that changes my life.
Right.
That puts me in a position to change my family's livelihood. The lineage, like, there's a lot. Lightning does not strike twice. So when you get an opportunity, you should cherish it, nurture it, and hope to benefit and flip it. That's just common sense. That doesn't make anybody a dick sucker. That doesn't make anybody a yes man. It makes nobody none of that. Now, the second thing for me is like contractually. I've never heard the word equity come out of Parks' mouth. We do not know everybody's terms and conditions to the contract, but the people that are involved.
That's true. That's very true.
Right?
And 9 times out of 10, if you didn't sign a contract, you're not gonna see it.
Based on what was said on Joe's podcast, they have contracts. Rory, Maul, Joe, all of them, they have agreements, whatever those are. I'm not privy to that information.
Neither am I. Stop DMing me.
Exactly.
Leave them alone.
Exactly, right? But I can say, or I can believe, that it's probably a lot different than Parks. First off, I do appreciate the fact that Joe gave us a timeline. I think a lot of people have caught on this wave rather late. They just see what they see, and when I say that, they got introduced to Joe, Rory, and Maul. And Parks, even. You know what I'm saying? Parks has been a main staple for quite some time now. There's people that may not even know or realize that Parks wasn't always on the mic.
Right.
Parks wasn't always a personality. Rory and Maul wasn't always there. So the timeline was really interesting to hear from Joe, because there's a lot of listeners, there's a lot of people who just say things who don't really understand what that timeline consists of, when people entered, what people's roles are, how things transpire. So he mentioned that Rory came about episode 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, very early on for a podcast that has over 400 episodes. Can't lie, can't deny it.
Is that
That's just
considered
what it
day
is.
one?
In my opinion,
What?
I would say, yeah.
Coming on
Personally.
the episode, okay.
Episode what?
Maybe not day one.
Coming on episode what?
Whatever episode Rory came on, 8, 9, whatever. Would
8,
you
9, 10,
consider
11.
that day one?
I mean, I came in on episode 8. You know what I'm saying?
That's why he made you repeat the number.
I mean,
He
like,
saw the
And here
video.
you are,
what
right back
What you
though.
trying to say?
I
saw
would
the
definitely
vision.
consider that like day one. I
okay.
would.
That's
Come on.
early. Yeah, I
No,
mean,
it's important.
Before that is day 0. You know what I mean? To me, it's like that was day 0.
That
you know, so
time period, definitely.
yeah,
Okay.
So personally, I agree with them. I would consider it day one.
yeah.
But technically, it's not day one.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
Technically.
now y'all have watched this podcast. Some of y'all have grown with us. Y'all understand that we've made changes on the podcast. Our first meeting only consisted of me and him. We brought somebody in on a very, very early, maybe episode 3, 4, 5, 6, around that same period.
Yeah.
We decided, like, hey, this is all of us. We're in this shit together. She's day one. Right? So that was a decision we had to make.
Yeah.
Nobody should have entered it and said, I'm day one. Like in my head, like if she would have came to me and said, yo, nigga, I want this and I want that because I've been here since episode whatever. Da, da, da. No, the inception, the birth of this podcast was because of he and I. Your entitlement doesn't really fit here because we welcomed you because we love you, we enjoy you. You know what I'm saying? You're great. We make this thing go. This shit is still in the mud. We still trying to get it out.
Right.
But technically, you're not day one if you're here on day 8.
Right. Not technically. Or
Technically, the third person or whoever like you're referring to can't say that they were responsible for the birth of the podcast.
I was just gonna use that analogy.
got you.
Like the birth, yes, you guys created this. No one can ever take that away from you. But like another personality added in does have a lot to do with the growth of the podcast, though.
For sure. So fast forward, and then he explains when Maul entered, which was around episode 70 something.
Yeah,
which in my opinion is not technically, that's not, day one on the show.
Can I ask you something about that?
Please do.
Maul was living with Joe at the time he was recording the early episodes of the podcast.
I wasn't there, so I can't.
I heard
really
him,
can't.
I heard
He
him say
said
that on the episode.
But I don't want to try to confirm it as if I was there.
No problem. I was just
So
wondering,
I
like,
don't know,
wow, like he
personally.
was, wow, like y'all have been in close vicinity with each other. You know what I mean? I was just blown away.
I know they
by
lived
that.
together at some point, but I wasn't there. I
Okay.
came on like episode 130 something.
Okay.
And I'm actually gonna speak to that, like the dynamics of the friendship. I don't know. I don't know how well these guys know each other.
Okay.
I don't know what they've been through.
Okay.
Like Corey, he's came around as of late. I'm not familiar with Corey's role. I didn't know who Corey was. Like Joe talks about the meeting. He says, hey, there was a meeting that happened amongst everybody that he was upset with. Did you catch that on the episode?
I believe I did catch it. I definitely heard
He
it. So.
references this meeting a lot.
Oh yes. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
So
Yeah.
he referenced
Yeah,
the
yeah,
meeting, and there was a lot of obviously things that were said.
Who was in the meeting?
One of the things you was in the meeting.
That's what I'm asking.
We
I
was
want
all
to make sure the listeners know.
we was all in the meeting except
yeah.
for Joe, and he didn't
Right.
like that too well.
Right.
But and he has to understand that, like, bro, as the guy in charge, as the boss, there's gonna be people who meet about you and talk about you, like, and express their grievances. Like, that's a natural thing in a workspace, unless you're just like super great boss man.
Yeah.
But if not,
And even if you are, it's still
it's
gonna be tough.
like the people
Yeah.
who work for you, work with you,
Yeah.
who aren't on that same level as you, they're gonna talk and converse and speak on
Yeah.
their whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's it's natural, bro. I'm sorry, Joe. I know you want to see and hear all at all times. This is just not possible.
That's what boys want to do. I get it.
Episode 77, I'll speed this up a little bit. Maul comes in. Technically on the podcast space, he's not day one, but it does get super popping once Maul comes. So maybe he kind of felt some type of way. Now, again, like I said, Joe said in his recalling of the events, he refused to give Rory, quote unquote, ownership. And these are his words. He said, no, I'm not giving you ownership. Whatever. What's up?
No, I think we should break that down.
Speak to it.
As a friend, if you hear that in the moment and you feel a way about that in the moment, do you express it or do you continue? I'm asking y'all. What would y'all do?
Do I express it or do I continue? What
pod.
context?
So if he had came to Joe like, hey, I'd like some equity.
Okay.
And like Joe said, let's say Joe said, nah, not really feeling this right now.
Okay.
If you still feel a way about it,
Okay.
do you keep it to yourself? Do you harbor it, which could maybe lead to resentment? Or do you keep addressing it or find a happy scenario?
I think that if I'm a part of something that I feel like doesn't align with what I seek as fair or fit, then the decision comes down to me whether I choose to stay with this entity or leave. If I decide to stay, then I feel like at that point, the blame can be only on me, and I have to take accountability for that because I gave something, I put something out there, and I didn't receive it, and I had to put that out there knowing deep down that probably I'm either going to get this or not, and within that, I had to make the decision, well, if I don't get it, do I still want to be a part of this or not? So I think that when it comes down to that, in that context, I think accountability does play a role where if I get shot down after I respectfully ask for something, it is what it is.
Do you think a person works as hard if they really want equity and they don't get it? Just asking questions.
And I stay,
Thank you.
and I stay.
Just asking questions.
I will speak to an experience. I'll speak to an experience.
Because do you feel like maybe your interests?
So I can't
goes
trust.
down?
I'll be honest with you. I can't trust. So I've been in a situation where someone wanted something and I couldn't, and it was a no. And I was like, no, we can't do that. That's not happening. Here's what we're going to do moving forward. And if you want to be a part of what I still have here, make your money and stuff like that moving forward, then this is what we have to do as a unit together, right?
In unison.
It's kind of like you're either with me or against me in a sense, because if you're not with me, then I can't trust you, one. And two, the it's just a strange situation. It's a conflict of interest if you're not with me all in with this thing.
I agree.
So I had to let that person go because they decided to try to play both sides. And I was like, no, that's not how this ship is moving, and we're done. Because now I can't trust you.
So
It's tough.
Hold up. I have just my answer to Alex's question. The way that I interpreted your question is like, if I still had a problem with not getting equity, you were asking kind of like, okay, would you just sit with that? Would you? So my
You're a
answer
human being.
My answer to that is like, if it really bothered me, I'm addressing it fully until we reach a solution. Like,
Yeah, 'cause
you already know
friends do.
I say it like a million times. Like, if something is on your mind, address it. Like, communicate. So whether let's just nip it in the butt right there. Stop being like, okay, I'm a little disappointed with this decision, but whatever, and then keep letting that brew. That's why everything explodes later in relationships with every that. So
Relationships.
So
yeah.
we record in this podcast studio. Right? Let's say, you know what? Actually, we can speak from our own experience. There was a podcast studio that we did work at some point. Now, let's say we're working here, and one of the biggest people on social media, if not top 5, maybe top 3 in the world, Kim Kardashian.
Okay.
Her reach, everything. She retweeted us.
Yeah.
The studio at the time, you know, we were still trying to figure some things out. It wasn't like we was in a place to really market it, to push it, whatever the case is.
Wasn't ideal.
It just wasn't, you know, home. It wasn't home for us.
Like this.
Imagine
Talk about it.
the shit. This Kim Kardashian sees this,
Right.
or whoever, right? Whoever. It blows up. Now Dev has all of these inquiries. Oh my God, I saw you on the Need to Know podcast. Where's the studio? How do I book? Da 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 da. I need this. I want that. And now we come in. Try to record on Wednesdays. Dev is like, yo, bro. You can't even get your space. I have such an influx of people.
That's crazy,
like,
Dev.
you know, I appreciate you.
No.
You guys made this. Not saying you would.
No. I'm just saying.
Nah.
You know where I'm going.
No. I reward value.
So now but listen, now I go to Dev. I'm like, yo, bro, I should be a part owner in this studio because, nigga, I got your shit popping. Or what if y'all look at me and Alex and say, hey, I noticed that the numbers and you guys are really doing great now, and, you know, we made some changes and we're a part of those changes. And, you know, I want equity in your podcast, SaVon and Alex. That's a conversation.
Yeah.
But it ain't given.
Sure.
You're not going to give us ownership in your studio that you built.
Right.
That you put the blood. I saw an R&B singer with a fucking screwdriver in his hand.
No, literally. A few more other tools. Like, he was in here working.
And like power tools.
Yeah.
You get like, that's the blood, sweat, and tears that he's putting into this space.
Right.
I walked in, and not only was he singing, but
Very
he
well.
had a fucking hammer on his hip, like the stripper had the AK. Like,
Dev the Builder.
this is his
That's
shit.
the builder.
He built this shit.
Absolutely.
And no matter how far the reach is this podcast gave it,
Sure.
in a hypothetical situation,
Right.
I can't come to him and say,
Right.
fam, like, I need that.
It's business.
I need that.
And what I said, like I said to you, the way that I do business is I reward value. So it's like, I know you guys' value. I see where I come in as just a businessman and just a friend as well, but I see myself, I see where I could fit. And I'm
Let me
like,
stop
holy,
you real quick.
Okay.
You said businessman and you said friend.
yes, it's separate.
Businessman is important
Yeah.
because that is what you are, and that is what a part of this is.
Right.
You're a businessman. I'm a businessman.
Businessman
That's
first before a friend, right?
But that's what it is.
That's what I'm asking, just to make sure we're
I
clear.
mean, it depends on the situation. Like
That's
if
all I wanted to
we
ask.
just kicking back,
The
I'm
friendship,
there.
will open a door to anything.
Exactly.
But the business is like paramount.
Gotcha.
But
Go ahead.
it is noted that you are a businessman. So am I.
Right.
And so that has to be acknowledged and not just glossed over by friend. I don't know where in their situation it got lost in translation. I don't know.
Friends in business.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know which party had the misunderstanding first. I don't know if Joe had a misunderstanding prior to that. I don't know where that stems from.
Right.
But what I do know is that clearly the miscommunication bled into the friendship, which bled into the business. Right. And then I want to get to actually this point when it says business, because a lot of people were hitting me up saying, oh, I saw a few tweets actually, and it was just like, how dare he say they're overpaid? How dare he say they're overpaid? I know what they do. I know what they say. Right? That, and again, I'm just going off of what I heard. Okay. I don't know the contracts. I don't know who is making what and how much and who's supposed to get what. I don't know none of that shit. What I do know as a podcaster, as somebody who is trying to get this shit out of the mud, as somebody who is trying to change my life, my family's life, the people around me, my friends' life, as somebody who is trying to get to a certain space or place in this space in podcasting, that there's a 1%. That 1% is, hey, I can have a living, make a living off of podcasting. That doesn't happen.
Not a lot. If you are in this field or you're familiar with the field, you know that. It's still a new field. More people are getting involved. But in terms of people making great, good money for what they do on a day-to-day basis, nah, we ain't there
But
yet.
isn't that the issue right there, where people have a lack of understanding when it comes to, one, the space, because this is a brand new space as far as podcasting, and just the nature of business. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, keep going, bro.
Go ahead. I just was saying, I think that's where the issue arises. I also think that a lot of people that might be hitting you guys, sure, some are very valid. And I want to preface this by saying this. I wanted to say this before. I am not speaking to their situation, because those men's their situation is their situation. Very specific. So I'm just speaking from my own perspective and stuff like that. But it's very easy to have integrity when you're broke. I say this to a lot of people. It's very easy to have integrity when you're broke. And I'm not trying to shoot at people that are broke. What I'm saying is, if you have never been put in a situation where there is money on the table, then it's very hard for me to listen to you or to take your opinion when it comes to the integrity of my personal situation.
Like, oh, I would have done this.
Right. It's very different.
Have you ever been through it?
Exactly. Do you have do you have children? Do you have an apartment to pay for? Did you just buy a new blah, 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 need to pay for? It's very different when integrity
do
is
you have
money.
People that you have to pay?
Yeah, I understand.
You employ.
You get me?
I understand
like, all of those things, like getting it out the mud is just something I really want to focus on. And I want to put it in this kind of perspective. The production costs that we have to pay for today, right? Because y'all got to remember, there's a service, there's hosting sites that you got to pay for. It's a monthly bill. Y'all complain about your Netflix, your Hulu, shit that actually benefits you and entertains you. Nigga, we pay just to put this out everywhere so you can
Netflix
listen to it.
Hulu.
Like the Monday, exactly. Like the Monday releases, that's an extra cost. That's an extra few $100s a year to get that out. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to put this in perspective. The first year that I started this podcast, 2015, 2016, I put more into our podcast today than I made in the year 2015.
That's crazy.
God damn, that's crazy. That's dedication.
Sound about right.
You said 2015?
2015, 2016.
Were you employed at that point? Or was you at the warehouse yet? Or?
I was working a job and a half, actually.
Job and a half. I think I was still at Adidas. Okay.
I was working a job and a half, and I was a full-time college student. And what I put into this podcast on a yearly basis, mind you, I split it 50-50 with a nigga.
Wait. Wow. You're making me remember shit now. My Adidas checks actually came out to about how much we spend per week for this.
Oh.
So when I tell you, like when I hear people, and not even just invest, like if you want to invest, yes, Reggie, do invest, right?
What do you mean?
You said invest.
I meant like invest in your
yourself,
craft.
No,
like,
that's what. If you want to, there's some people who don't really want to, who don't need to, who don't see it that way. There's some people. There's nothing wrong with being a worker. There's this new train of thought in 2021, 2020, new generation, where people get shitted on for being a worker. It's okay to be a worker. It's okay to have security. It's okay to have benefits. I don't have benefits. I break my leg, I gotta go pay $10,000 to get it fixed. Like, it's okay for you to have those things if it's not built for you. But just to put it in perspective, like I said, the what I made in my salary in that year, I'm putting it out over the last 2 years in a year, like the same thing, right? So getting it out the mud is something that everybody hasn't done. Everybody's not built for. everybody doesn't understand it. Real quick, I just want to say this last thing, and then you could go. I got paid through a pandemic.
Talk about it.
Full circle.
Facts.
Let that sit with you real quick, bro.
All at home.
Look, Levin's like, yo.
The warehouse.
Yeah,
the warehouse that I worked at was the second largest restaurant distributing supplies company in the country at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Almost went out of business completely. Had layoffs completely. The rest. Do y'all remember how the pandemic impacted the restaurant business?
Of course, we remember.
Do you remember? Like, we still can't get a drink at 1 a.m. in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least for now. Word.
Like,
Destroyed
it's
it.
fucked it up.
Yeah.
The very warehouse, the way that I was making my money then, if I was still there during the pandemic, I would have been out of a job, nothing that I could do, nothing.
Right.
So
If you stay stagnant.
the opportunity or the position that I'm in right now, I was fortunate enough to get paid through a pandemic. Like, I didn't miss a single week of payment.
Right.
Not one.
Same.
I made.
Hate to say it, right?
Say it.
I know you hate to say it, but say it. I know.
Nah, I'm
Say it.
kidding. You don't have to
Nah, yeah,
say
me
the
too. I know.
details.
But you did. You know.
No,
you
yeah,
know
me
why?
too.
Yeah.
You know why?
It's crazy.
Because you got it out the mud.
Absolutely.
You worked tirelessly. I should never see an R&B singer with a sledgehammer.
What the fuck is that?
I just feel like that's my porn. Like a porn. I don't know. Something feels pornish about that.
No, you had the whole belt too with the measuring.
I was ready
You
to
should
go.
never
Okay,
see-
Dev.
Hey, 'cause
Shit.
ain't nobody gonna do it better than yourself. I always say that. Ain't nobody gonna do it better than you.
Like, continue, bro.
You feel like when you get out the mud, you put more care into it because you know what it
course.
took.
I am
Hell
so
yeah.
glad.
Of
know what it took.
course.
Woo! Yo, I'm so glad. Yo, bro, we be there, bro. I don't know how we do it. I don't know how you do it.
there.
I got
Tag
it written down
team,
where I wanted to
hey.
go. I got
Us.
it written down where I wanted to go,
come on,
bro.
it's us, bro.
Fam, another message, but let me talk to Reggie and Dev again. Like, and this is all respect. This is all to put things in
Please let that be
context. Like,
said. Please let that be
because I
said.
do
Oh, yeah,
really
always.
appreciate y'all and what y'all have done
Yeah.
for this podcast and everything, right? But I do just want to put it in context for the listeners, right? Reggie and Devon could never in their fucking lives care or love about this podcast more than me or Alex.
Agree.
Respectfully.
By default, though.
Agree.
That's
Yeah,
by
and like
default.
it's like we know that. Like
Yeah.
it's like I would never try to say that I do, even
Right.
if we wind up doing 100 episodes together from now on into the future. I would never be like, yeah, you know, I know that you guys put way more into it than I
Yeah.
ever did. You know,
It's nothing that you could do.
And if you sat and told me, hey, Devon, you do ABC on the podcast, and that's not the direction of what I want this podcast, and I need you to do ABC, I can either choose to say,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that and step off, or I can say, you know what? Gotcha. I got you, and I will make the adjustment if I want to be a part of the ship. That's just me. Once again, please preface this. I love Rory and Maul. I'm
we
not
all do.
speaking
Me
about
too.
them.
We
Those
all
are
do. Those are my
whatever their
guys.
emotions, feelings. That is their, that's their situation. I am not privy to
this
that
is how
shit.
Dev would move.
This is. I'm just saying. Right. Thank you. I'm speaking
No,
from my own
because it's good
perspective.
to
I just wanna
detangle
say
this
that.
friends and business conversation.
Yeah, it's
It's
a
a
great
lot of
combo.
layers.
It's a great conversation
It's a lot of layers.
I got a lot of ghost stories and a lot of bad stories, bro, about this. This happens so much. It's just that I think because of the podcast and how invested people are, that you're seeing it in a personification. You're seeing it in real time. Like it's because we're so engulfed into their lives. You understand what I'm saying? But this happens so much. This happens all the time.
Got another question for y'all. Putting everything on the table as friends. Do you think that friends do that on the daily? And let me explain. Let me break it down. When I say putting everything on the table, I mean everything that's bothering you, how you feel about things. I feel like a lot of the times friends don't put everything on the table, so now things are being warped. The way I see something, you don't see it, but I don't know that.
Are you
because
talking about literally just friendships, not
Yeah,
friendships
no, this
and
is
business? Okay,
everything
okay.
we're saying right now is just friendships,
Okay.
friends on the table, because it's gonna lead us there.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you guys think that friends do a good enough job of putting everything on the table? I see you, El. I see your answer back there.
I mean, naturally, no, because I think naturally we try to guard things, we try to keep things. There's certain things that I frankly might just be ashamed of. There's certain things that
we're not friends.
I don't feel like I can, you know what I'm saying?
That we're not friends.
You guys are. I feel like you guys will already know my answer.
Yeah,
always
I
just
feel like I know
address
yours.
it. And
I
it's
know
not
yours.
just me
It's-
saying I do, but we always address it.
Oh, I thought you meant like in your personal life.
Oh, I mean,
Friendships,
I mean,
friendships.
within the friendship, like you kind of know where I'm getting with here. If something is bothering me about my friend, something has occurred that we are both.
If something's bothering
if
me
we are
about
both
my
involved.
friend.
We're
Got
both
you,
involved.
got
This is a
you.
friendship.
Oh, okay. I thought
And
you
instead
meant
of-
like if
oh,
I
yeah,
just
not
wanted to go
not
like
yourself,
do some
but-
shit on the side.
There's,
I mean,
for me personally, there's certain things from friends that I am willing to accept, right? And be like, that's what blah 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 does. I know, blah,
and
blah.
we're just separate people.
Yes,
I do
in
that for SaVon all the time.
Right. But if there's something that
That's funny,
stupid,
Reggie.
I just got that.
Yeah,
out
I
of
do
my
that for
head.
SaVon all the
My
time.
bad. But if there's something in our relationship that kind of infringes on some of my beliefs or something that I can't deal with, then that's when I bring it to
Or
you.
that
But-
affects us, like our
Right.
friendship.
Right, right. And my well-being within our friendship, then by all means. But I'm not gonna. There's certain things I don't like about a lot of people, you know.
Yeah.
But some things I'm like, that's just a thing that Alex does, or that's just a SaVon thing, or that's a Pierre thing. Like, there's certain things I'm willing to accept, but as long as they don't run into conflicting with my belief system and stuff like that, that's when I bring it to you. So there are some things that I don't, and some things that
Basically,
I do.
there's stuff that's worth bringing up and not.
Right.
And you
Is it-
want to know?
Right.
What's funny?
Right.
Like when you say that, when you say like, "Yo, that's my friend. I know how he's gonna act." Like Alex does that. He just said it. He does it with me all the time. Like, "Yo, that's just SaVon. That nigga tripping, or he's just doing his own thing, or that's just his thought process. That's just how he moves." Whatever kid, like he understands that's my friend. He gets it, right?
Yeah.
And that's because he knows me. So there was one thing that I came across on the timeline that I wasn't too big of a fan of when I heard it back. Obviously, I heard the episode in real time, in real life. But when I heard this, I was just like, if you don't know Joe, probably going to take this the wrong way. Right.
This drop. I never asked for this drop in here, Rory. You piece of shit. I never asked you to show up when my son was born either. I never asked for nothing. It's Parks. It's Parks' house. It's Parks' engineering. It's Parks' kindness and grace, you fucking piece of shit.
Now, if you
This
know
drop.
Joe,
I never.
now if you know Joe, you know he really don't mean the piece of shit thing.
And when I heard it back, and again, I told y'all, Joe was the first person. I think I was the first person Joe called when this episode was going to drop, just because, you know, I'm in charge of releasing it, pulling all that stuff. So not because I feel like I'm such an important person in his life.
He would go to you
But
for
when
certain
it comes
things.
to this shit, it's like, yo, SaVon, you know,
Yeah.
should we do this way? And so he called me early in the morning, and I got a chance to talk to him. And I heard that back, and I'm like, you know, bro, if there was one thing I could have said, like, I wish we took out, I wish we might have took that out, because in context, people don't know you. So
Yeah.
when they hear that
They're not
and you
gonna
say you
understand
fucking piece of shit, and I didn't ask you to do this, and I didn't do, like, it can come off, like, it will come off the wrong way. Not that it can. It will.
It will.
1,000% what you just said. I'm like, but again, I have the privilege of knowing this guy a little bit, and I know that's pain.
Yeah.
That's hurt, bro.
That's funny. I said the same thing. I was like, I was like, I know he's like moving forward. We gotta do what we gotta do. I was like, but this definitely is. It hurts. I know it hurts, and it's okay. That
We're
is
humans.
okay.
Do I gotta play
yeah.
that clip again? Do y'all want to hear it with like a different set of ears? I don't know if I
No.
like.
No.
Oh, we heard it.
That it sounded like he's hurt.
Yes.
And see, this is kind of the conversation I really want to have, though. And I don't want to have a men's and friendship conversation. I want to kind of go back to it. I don't think friends do a good job of showing how comfortable they are with friends. There's certain things that we don't speak about, and then we resent our friend for.
I'll be honest. Let's go to hurt. I'm sorry,
Let's go to
Alex.
hurt.
Like you can pull me back in.
No,
My
let's go to
brain-
hurt.
My brain is just there,
No,
bro.
let's
I
go to
hear a
hurt.
word. I'm
Let
like,
it
oh,
out,
shit.
SaVon.
It's all the same combo.
when it comes to like being hurt, there was times during this process that I looked around and I was like, damn, where the guys at? Like, this shit is how I eat. This is how I live. Like, it was a big celebration. SaVon got the crib, he got the skyrise, he got the doorman, he got the freedom of he's taking the first step as an adult.
Taking the reins.
Okay.
Like, and
Very interesting perspective.
when they didn't show up, obviously, I'm thinking, because I live in the magic. I see the magic. I go on tours. I see the reactions. I see how people respond to them. I'm enamored by it at certain points. It's like when you go to a basketball game and you see your favorite player just going off. you're like, yo, this is really him. Or when you're at a concert, let's say that, because all of us have been to a live music event at some point. Yeah. Hopefully, if you ever got to experience seeing your favorite artist, I told Pierre when he was covering the DMX memorial service, right? I was like, bro, you got to breathe the same air as Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Reggie too.
You just get so invested in the shit. So when I see these guys on tour and I see these big moments that they created, for me, like, again, I'm still a fan of this shit, bro. Yeah. I'm still a fan. I'm not above it. I'm still a fan of what I'm watching. Yeah. So when 6 weeks or 2 weeks go by and 3 weeks go by, and now I'm looking around, I'm like, damn, I'm getting food for ice and ish. Like, I'm taking these niggas food all the
You wasn't feeling that?
I don't know them, bro.
Like, you don't really know them like
I didn't subscribe to that.
You
Like,
don't really know them like
the
that.
sandwich felt a little different giving it to them niggas.
Like, these niggas eat a lot. Like, Rory and Maul,
shout out to
they
Ice
eat
and
once a show.
They'll eat 4 times a day if we
These
ask them.
niggas eating a lot,
Shout out to Ice
bro.
and
Like, what you got me doing? Like,
Do you think you haven't been able to process how it made you feel because you were so worried about everything else going on?
How about this? Let me answer that for you if you let me. I don't think me and SaVon have been able to process this entire year.
Yo, yeah, it's not even just from the Joe side. It's from this side. It's from that side. Yeah,
There is
These
so
guys,
much going on that we are still just working through. I haven't had the time to process shit, so I know how he feel with that shit.
Yo, it's been a lot of shit that happened.
So even to try to assess that, like I said, the second, third week, I'm looking around, I'm like, and this is one of the things that I've said in my personal life. Like, what if it did work? And Joe used the word sabotage on his platform. I won't indict Rory and Maul on sabotaging because I don't know their intent. For what their intent is like, yo, we want to take time back to like figure things out. But from another perspective, from Joe's perspective, it can come off as sabotage. Like, if me and actually, there was a moment in this podcast where I wasn't here for a week, and somebody thought that I was trying to sabotage it. And I was like, yo, I'm just like, the energy's not right. We not right now.
Kind of felt like sabotage.
What I can respect that.
Yeah, of course.
And see,
we spoke about it. Yeah.
Alex is telling me like, yo, it felt like you kind of sabotaged.
Yeah.
And my defense, I was just like, yo, bro, you know what? I need a me day. Okay. Y'all figure it out.
And they call us yes men.
Word. You know what I'm saying? So from Joe's perspective, he views it as sabotage. Rory and Maul is like, yo, I just want to figure this thing out. But with the lengthy hiatus, at some point, can you fault somebody for saying it wasn't an attempt to sabotage when you feel like your value is so great that, hey, if I don't show up, the people are gonna come with me?
I'll shoot some. I'll be devil's advocate real quick. Maybe I think Rory's and Maul's person. I think the curiosity peaked around that time. Like, if sabotage is not the word, I think they were really curious to see what Joe would do.
What would happen?
I think they were really trying to explore the curiosity route from that.
But going back to that word friends.
Interesting.
If that's
think
your
that
friend,
yeah.
you should know. You tell me all the time, Alex.
Right.
You gotta know who you're dealing with.
Back to the convo. We're back.
Yeah. Like,
that's my point.
Do you really want to play chicken with this nut ass nigga? Like,
yeah. But you know what it is though too. As friends, sometimes we try to do different things to get different results out of our friends. And that's us trying to control the situation. If we're being quite frank, because like SaVon said, if we know our friend. And we kind of know how they gonna give it up on certain things. We could kind of gear up for what's coming. So it's interesting. It's an interesting place.
Leverage is the most. It's the most valuable currency in the world.
You think they lost their leverage?
I'm not saying that.
Yes.
What I'm saying is,
yes,
and I'm saying this very carefully, and I'm gonna give this shit right over to you. I'm just saying, just generalizing that I think leverage is it is the most valuable thing in the world. Because
I agree.
If there's no oil in the world, right? I feel like I heard this. I feel like one of them said it. If there's no oil in the fucking world, and I drive a fucking Maserati or whatever, and we're hungry and the world is all fucked up, and I have an Apple, you may think about giving me that Maserati because you can't drive it to pay for the Apple. It's like circumstance and leverage. Like there's anybody can have anything during the right circumstances. So when I think about
in that moment, you wouldn't even see how valuable that Apple is in comparison to that car.
Exactly, because of the circumstance of your environment.
That's interesting.
it smacked me so hard in the face, like, about that. What were you saying?
No, he asked about leverage, and again, from my perspective, I'm connected to these guys. So in my head, it's like, yo, I want this shit to work. I'm upset. I'm making phone calls.
Right.
I'm trying not to read everything, but I can't help but read everything. Right. So I'm reading everything. Like, at some point, I've reached my threshold of like, yo,
tagged in it.
Literally tagging everything. It's
facts. I reached my threshold of like, yo, what if like the shit did go dark, and like, what if that shit affected my livelihood?
It fucks with you. You start thinking about real life, man. You start looking at the luxury apartment like, damn.
Things get very different.
And then it goes into like,
understand.
Oh, shit.
I get it.
Wait a minute, Reggie. Everybody is just being businessmen. Whoa. They're doing what they think is best for them, and he's doing what he thinks is best for him. And although y'all want to call Parks a yes man and a dick rider and all these things,
You gotta stop that, man.
he has a wedding coming up.
Not even just that, SaVon. Not even just that.
He has to do what's best for
That shouldn't
him.
even matter, man.
Like,
Parks has also known Joe for a very long time. So a lot of these behaviors maybe Joe has exuded, Parks is accustomed to it.
Parks has talked me off the ledge, just being like, yo, Parks, I can't fucking do this, bro. He's like, yo, bro, this is Joe. This is how he does it. One of the things that I had asked Parks, or that I noticed or mentioned to Parks, I said, yo, you're like the Joe Budden whisperer. Like, you speak his language.
Like how Alex is a SaVon whisperer.
Yeah, like,
That's funny.
like Joe will say something crazy as fuck.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it processes different in Parks' head,
And then he
he's
says
able
it.
to translate it,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, all right, cool. Let's go."
He does. have
He's
that.
like the Joe translator in my head, right?
Yeah.
So when you know all these things, when you pay attention to all these things, and you understand, like, yo, yes, the podcast, the on-air aspect of it, the shit that makes the thing go, it is the friendship, it is the chemistry. But when you take a step back from it, and you're like, everybody is attempting to, whether it's working out in their favor or not, everybody is attempting to do what is best for them.
Yeah.
That's why it makes it easier for me to come here and speak on my interest, because what's best for me was for everybody to continue the podcast so that I can continue to live and try to build a life for myself and the people I love and everybody around us. But when the rug gets pulled from under you and you're like, oh shit, wait, this is really, oh my God, a wake up call. Like, this is business. Like,
scary.
everybody's really just, in a selfish way, and you got to be selfish. Nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to talk about it. But to a degree, you got to kind of have that ego. You kind of got to be a little selfish in this shit, especially when you try to get it out the mud.
Yeah. And everybody puts themselves first, whether you want to admit to it or not.
A lot of people in a situation have said ego doesn't play a factor, money doesn't play a factor. It's lies. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like,
I love that.
Seeing it is a little egotistical. And again, like I said, a lot of your favorite people in the world exist. You know them to exist because their ego drives them to be who they are. You
You
know
don't
what
even
I'm
know it's their
saying?
ego the whole time.
Like, yeah, but it just gets fucked up when certain people don't realize that their ego is in the way of what is going on. So yeah, that's just my perspective.
If I am with a boss, and I know how my boss is, there's a certain line of disrespect that I just won't tolerate from my boss.
But
right?
if your boss is your friend, are your expectations different? Are your expectations different when your boss is your friend?
Can I say something to that? There is a slight, what is the word I'm looking for? There's a slight curve that I would put it with my friend, because you know what? You know me better than just a guy that just filling out his 1099. So I would put a little bit more of a curve on that one.
Sure.
But hey, the thing is, no matter what, if I feel disrespected, I'm like, oh, this environment isn't for me anymore. I can see that I'm not getting what I need out of it. I'm gone. And respectfully, I'm gone. You know what I mean? And if I stay, guess who? That's on me.
It's on you, yeah.
That's on me, and that's it. And that's just me from my perspective. If I feel like I can't handle it and the disrespect is there and I'm just not getting what I want, I feel like I'm being hoodwinked and swindled and I just don't like the environment anymore, I'm out. And that's just the end of it. For me personally, that's just the end of it.
Yeah, for me, I'm not, like, I know some people are probably going to hear this and it's like, oh, yeah, you know, you have to say these things. I don't. Like,
at all.
You know, one of the beauties of what we do is, and what I have always said and described is like working with Joe and working, you know what I'm saying, for him, is he'll give you all the rope in the world to do whatever you want with the rope. Like us having this podcast, doing this podcast for however many weeks, that's rope. Because a lot of people wouldn't allow that to happen in their operation. Like, I also think a lot of people look at the person being such a big personality and being a former rapper, you don't really equate him to being a business sometimes. Like, that's just what it is, right? But he allows us to create freely. He has no creative control. He doesn't censor anything. He doesn't act. He doesn't really care about anything that we're doing over here, because respectfully, we kind of know, all right, this is kind of what we should go into, and maybe this isn't so favorable in trying to represent, you know what I'm saying, the person that he is. Like, sure. I'm not dumb. We're not stupid. We know why a majority of you are listening to this podcast at the moment. Like, he's given us a certain level of credibility. Although I was podcasting before I met him, although I was invested in this space before I met him, although I did attempt to put one out and it just didn't go as well as I would have liked it to, no matter how hard I tried. And the people that I worked with at the time, like, yo, they're great people, but they weren't great podcasters. They weren't great business partners. Maybe they didn't see the vision. Maybe they didn't really understand it at the time. Like I said, the guy who I'm riding with every day in and day out right now, when I first came up to him, he didn't understand it, and he blew me off and said, fuck out of here. I don't know what a podcast is. So, like, I don't fault anybody for it, but there's a certain thing that you just carry with you when you feel like you're getting something out of the mud, when you know lightning will not strike twice, when you know that. Like, I really need people to understand. And again, I'm just speaking from my perspective. I'm not trying to shit on anybody, because I'm really not. Like, we're not even trying to go there.
This ain't even that type of show to be.
Yeah, like, we love Rory and I love Maul. Like, I love both of those guys.
Love them.
Like, they've taught me so much. They watched me grow up, in a sense. When I met them, I was 22, 23 years old. Jeez. Like, you know, for real. It's real shit. So this isn't me trying to kick anybody when they're down. Because I would never. Like, just the thought of it is fucking with me, right?
Right.
But it's like, all right, cool. Where am I able to just speak my piece and from my perspective? And why, when I get the comments of dick riding and all this other shit, it's like, yo, bro, you don't even understand what it's like because you never bet on yourself. And that's okay. It's okay.
Completely fine.
Also,
fine.
You're not a real person to them. You know that, right? Y'all are not real people.
That's why
y'all are characters on a TV show.
Exactly.
You do know that, right?
I do. I'm very familiar.
And other people can't have a hard time separating those two things.
It's very hard for them.
Very hard. I want you guys to know that, because I see y'all talking about these comments, but I want y'all to know deep down, these people do not see y'all as actual real people. You guys are characters on a TV show.
Somebody commented on my whole vein post. I posted a little promo clip
and said what?
And asked about Joe and the guys. Some shit like that. It's funny you say that because here I am showing the world what it is I also do outside of that realm. And like you said, they look at me as a caricature. Like, nigga, I don't even see Hovain. I don't even see you by yourself. We're doing a whole other interview by yourself. They see who they know and who they hear from what they're familiar with. Yeah. So when you understand that, even listening to those people, it's hard for me to. I mean, y'all can keep shooting on the internet. Have fun, man.
It helps.
So yeah, it's a sad day, and in my personal life, and like I said, as a fan of this shit, we still are fans. You know what I'm saying? Of what we do, and that's a blessing. Like that's a gift. I'm fortunate to be in a position where I could say, hey, I work somewhere, and I'm a fan of where I work and what I work for and what I do and where I'm going. You know what I'm saying? Like that shit is mind-boggling to realize, like, the position that we're in. But it is a sad day that this shit had to come to this. I think that personally, and I didn't hear this from him, but I think Joe was hurt. I think, you know,
as he should be,
finding out, you know, hours prior to recording that, hey, We all just had extended time off. We're going to come back refresh. Let's get back into the studio, and then to come to find out that, hey, we're not really going to show up. I think a lot of that rant, I think a lot of the decisions, the conversation, the antics, the theatrics, I think a lot of that stemmed from pain that was maybe masked a little bit. You know, I noted when he said, like, yo, I never thought I would see a day where this didn't exist with us, you know, and I believe him when he said that. And I also remember when he said, it was 2 episodes ago, and it was very profound to me because he was like, he referenced the podcast, and he looked at Rory and Mal, and he said, this podcast is my life's work. Meaning, I don't get to turn it off. There's not just another bookmark in the book. This
it's not one stream of revenue.
My life's work to date. This is the greatest asset that I've ever had in my life. I will guard it. I will protect it. I will nourish it and until I can't. And no matter how much of a friendship we have, I can't allow anybody or anything to infiltrate it, destroy it potentially, shift it. Like, I understood him when he said that. And I wish that the guys, you know, saw it maybe, and I don't know if they do. Maybe they do see it from that, but they feel like, hey, I got to stand my ground. I got to do what's best for me. Maybe that's their perspective. But when a man looks at you and tells you, like, yo, I put my whole life into this shit. Like, I didn't have the biggest rap career. Like, you know why you know me? Because I was a rapper. And you know why you know me? Because I was on Love and Hip Hop. And you know why you may know me? Because those things, you know, some of those moments were bigger for the wrong reasons, maybe. A lot of people know Joe for the wrong reasons. Like, nobody ever thought about that. Like,
it's true.
So, knowing that lightning doesn't strike twice for most of us, and being that it has for him and other, you know, rappers like Gilly. I think Gilly's another example of that. Like, wasn't the biggest rapper. Sure, he could rap. Sure, he wrote a lot of hits. Sure, he worked with Wayne. Like, but when you hear Gilly in 2021, you don't think of him being a rapper. You think of him having a successful, great, amazing podcast.
Right.
The same, similar with Joe. Like, yeah, people know Joe rap, but the thing that keeps him in this space to compete and to grow and to change his kids' lives and to change the people that work for him and the people that he cares and loves about is that podcast and asset. You're gonna protect that shit with everything you got. And that's the lens that I could identify and see it from. Kind of live through it to a certain degree, not on a large scale, like. But yeah, man, it's rough. It's rough. It's a tricky situation.
I would like to say that I am whatever Rory, whatever Mal decide to do, I am a fan. Same. I want to hear you. I want to hear from you. Whatever content you guys create, guess what? I am still listening. I will check you guys out. I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope that they find what they are looking for in whatever endeavors that they choose to continue in. And that's just me, just speaking for me. I just want to say that out loud because that is the truth. I'm still a fan of those two perspectives. I've been with you for years. This is two characters that I've just been in listening to for a very, very long time. So for me to sit here and just, you know, say that I'm done with them and stuff like that would be a complete lie. And I just want to make that known. I wish them the best, and whatever they decide to do with their future endeavors, I will be a fan. I will listen, and I will invest my time and effort into it.
I completely agree, man. Those are really my guys, bro. I really fuck with them. What I will say, though, just for them, I wish they would have just leveraged something off of Joe's name. I got to be honest.
I'm shocked that...
I got to be honest.
Yo, I wanted to say I didn't know how to say it.
Yeah. No.
Say that shit again, bro.
Yeah, I really wish they would have just leveraged something over Joe's name, only solely because Joe is okay with it, and that they know who Joe is as a person. So maybe if you guys could have just like leveraged something real quick, and y'all don't got to take no advice from me. This isn't advice. Just things I wish would have happened because those are my guys. You know, just things outside of just the network and Joe as to where maybe you guys' passion wasn't there, which is fine. We all have different passions in life. But just to leverage something off of his name, Who says
not
y'all
just
haven't?
off of his name,
Yeah,
right?
you know.
Leverage the opportunity. Almost. You know what I'm
Correct,
saying?
right,
Like the biggest music.
Joe
podcast.
is the business.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. So I
Joe's
don't want to
name
say
is
like
the-
leverage off of his
no,
name
yeah.
because we all men at the end of the day. Like we ain't. Nobody wants a handout. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to feel like they've been given anything.
Not
you know,
at
so
all,
I don't.
not at all, yeah, no.
You know what?
I think leverage, like you
Leverage,
said, just
yeah.
leverage the
leverage.
opportunity of being the biggest. And I don't know, maybe they do have some things.
Like
you know?
I said, yeah,
You know
maybe
what
they
I-
do.
Seen.
You know,
But I agree. I do hope the same.
you know what?
Word, that's all I'm hoping. Like you said, they might, which would be dope.
You know what I personally would have did?
Yeah.
I hate that I'm going to say this.
Say it.
Personally, if I was Rory, I would have liked to see him start his own podcast underneath the Joe Budden Network that was strictly focused on R&B. And then I would have gave Joe a percentage of that and said, you'll basically host the content. I'll have ownership in this one. And then we share this one podcast. This will be a different deal structure, but it'll still be under the network, but I'll own a part of this portion that I'm about to create. Because I would have loved to see
Yo, your
that
voice
from
got
him.
mad low.
Because that's real
You're like whispering.
Because I hate that I'm saying that because these are other men's business. So it's
100%.
really fun
I mean,
for
that's
me.
just your.
But in my head, I'm like,
A little
yo, I would have
idea.
loved. I bet you I'd rather say I would have loved to see that. You know what I mean? I would have loved
Yeah,
to
that's
have
what you
seen
said.
his content come out, and I would have loved to see Maul sit with the people he wants to sit with. I want to know who Maul wants to talk to.
Because-
the NBA players, and
Yeah,
the
because I can
athletes.
completely understand if they don't have a podcasting love. I can understand that. We're all
Yeah.
different, and they didn't get it from out the mud, and they weren't there from necessarily day one.
But we all love a bag.
But we all love a little bag.
I
That's
think
all I'm
I think
saying.
we can all
Word.
agree there that there is some
I
money
can see
to be
Maul
had.
doing mad shit.
Yeah, I can
Rory
see-
too.
right.
Right. Rory's got an album coming out.
I think that's
Like,
what
he's on the-
bothers
that's
me.
dope.
I think that's what bothers because the potential. I'm just like, yo, there's you guys have. I just and I'm not saying it's gone, but I just think that these guys have so much fucking potential.
know it.
and I'm excited.
Just leveraging it.
Yeah,
Even more.
Yeah.
So what they,
I wish them. I really
Shout out to them,
hope.
though.
Shout out to y'all, and I wish y'all the best, man.
And I would love to even be a part of anything that they were doing. Like